behind the closed doors of what seemed like a perfect 32-year marriage. David Mitchell was about to discover a betrayal so deep, it would take 6 months of silent planning to achieve the perfect revenge. This is his story. Welcome to Behind Closed Doors, where we share true stories of deception, secrets, and the moment truth finally emerges. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story is absolutely insane. Now let's dive into how one night at a bar changed David's life forever, and how his response became the most calculated revenge you'll ever hear. David Mitchell was 58 years old and had been married to Jennifer for 32 years. Together for 35. 3 grown children. A comfortable life. He didn't drink, so he was always the designated driver when they went out with friends. It was a role he was happy to play. On this particular night 7 months ago, David and Jennifer went to a concert with her brother Tom, Tom's wife, and Jennifer's best friend Lisa and her husband. After the show, they all decided to grab drinks at a popular bar downtown. The group was laughing, talking about the concert, enjoying the night. At one point, the 3 women excused themselves to go to the restroom. Tom and the other husband continued their conversation while David sat back, checking his phone. A few minutes later, 2 women returned to the table, but Jennifer wasn't with them. Lisa slid back into her seat and smiled. Jennifer's having some stomach trouble. She'll be along in a minute. David nodded. He didn't think much of it. But after several more minutes passed, he needed to use the restroom himself. He stood up, told the group he'd be right back, and made his way through the crowded bar. The music was loud, people were packed shoulder to shoulder, and he had to navigate carefully through the crowd. That's when he saw her. Jennifer was standing near the back corner of the bar, talking to a man David had never seen before. The man had his hand on Jennifer's hip. Her hand was resting on his shoulder. The pose was intimate. Too intimate. The kind of body language you don't have with a stranger. David stopped walking. His heart started pounding. Jennifer noticed him immediately. Her eyes went wide. She quickly stepped back from the man, removing her hand from his shoulder. She reached out toward David, grabbing his arm. "David, hey, let's go back to the table," she said quickly, trying to pull him away. But David didn't move. He stared at the man. "Who is this?" The man smirked. He was younger. Much younger. Maybe mid-30s. Confident. Cocky. "None of your business," he said. Jennifer pulled David's arm again. "Come on. Let's just go." David turned to look at his wife. "Who is he, Jennifer?" Before she could answer, the man threw a punch. David didn't see it coming. The blow connected with the side of his head. Hard. The room tilted. David stayed on his feet, but stumbled backward. The man lunged forward, tackling David and slamming him against the wall. David's head cracked against the hard surface. Everything went dark. He could hear sounds, shouting, chaos. But he couldn't see, couldn't think, couldn't make sense of what was happening. Later, he would be told that the man punched him at least 2 more times while he was dazed. Tom, Jennifer's brother, saw what was happening and tackled the man off of David. Tom didn't stop. He beat the man senseless, fists flying. The man crumpled to the floor. Security rushed in. Police were called. Paramedics arrived. David's next coherent thought was inside an ambulance. His head was throbbing. His vision was blurry. A paramedic was checking his pupils with a flashlight. "Sir, can you tell me your name?" David blinked. "What happened?" "You were assaulted. We're taking you to the hospital." The man who attacked David was also taken to the emergency room and then arrested. Tom was arrested too, but the charges were quickly dropped when witnesses confirmed he was defending his brother-in-law. David stayed in the hospital overnight for observation. Concussion protocol. They needed to make sure there were no serious side effects. The next day, a police officer came to David's hospital room to take his statement. The officer seemed surprised when David said he didn't know the man who attacked him. "Your wife told us it was a misunderstanding," the officer explained. She said the guy works with her and got a little handsy. Said everyone just overreacted. David stared at the officer. A co-worker? Jennifer had never mentioned anyone like that. But his head was pounding, and he couldn't think straight. He just nodded. 2 days later, David was home recovering. Jennifer had been quiet, distant. She kept asking if he was okay, but something felt off. Tom had been cold toward Jennifer since that night. Barely spoke to her. And then, Tom showed up at David's house while Jennifer was at work. Tom sat down across from David in the living room. He looked uncomfortable, nervous. "I need to tell you something," Tom said. "And you're not going to want to hear it." David frowned. "What is it?" Tom took a deep breath. "When that guy was on the top of you, when you were knocked out, he was yelling things, saying things to Jennifer, to all of us." "What kind of things?" Tom met his eyes. "He said he'd been sleeping with Jennifer. For months. He kept saying it, over and over. That she was his. That you didn't deserve her." The words hit David like another punch. He felt the air leave his lungs. "What?" "I don't have proof," Tom said quickly. "But David, I believe him. The way Jennifer reacted. The way she's been acting since. I think he was telling the truth." David sat in silence. His mind was racing. 32 years of marriage. 3 children. A life built together. And some stranger at a bar was claiming he'd been sleeping with his wife. Tom continued. "I struggled with whether to tell you. I didn't want to blow up your life if I was wrong. So I did some research. I looked online for advice on how to handle this. I found a forum where people talk about infidelity. A lot of them said the betrayed spouse deserves to know. So here I am. Telling you." David didn't respond. He couldn't. "I think you should look for proof," Tom said quietly. "Before you confront her. Because if it's true, she's going to lie. She's going to gaslight you. You need evidence." Tom left shortly after. David sat alone in his living room, staring at the wall. His head still ached from the assault, but now his heart ached too. He wanted to scream, to cry, to break something. And he did. Once Tom was gone, David let it out. He yelled until his voice was hoarse. He punched the couch cushions. He cried harder than he had in decades. But after the breakdown, something shifted in David. A cold clarity settled over him. If this was true, he needed proof. And he needed to stay calm. He couldn't let Jennifer know he suspected anything. That night, when Jennifer came home, David forced himself to act normal. It was one of the hardest things he'd ever done. She kissed him on the cheek and asked how he was feeling. "Better," he lied. 2 days later, David got his chance. Jennifer left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. David picked it up. His hands were shaking. He opened her messages. And there it was. A conversation with a contact saved as M. Hundreds of messages, pictures, videos, explicit photos Jennifer had sent, videos she had made for him, text messages that said, "I love you," messages that talked about when they could meet up next, messages that planned their encounters behind David's back. David scrolled further. 3 days after the assault, after the man had punched David in the bar, there was a message from M. "Took that old man down quick," the message said, followed by a laughing emoji. Jennifer's response was a smiley face. David thought he might throw up. He set the phone down before Jennifer came out of the shower. Over the next few days, whenever he had the chance, David went back to the phone. He took screenshots. He saved everything. The messages. The photos. The videos. He sent them all to his own email. Then he started looking at Jennifer's other messages. Her texts with Lisa, her best friend. And that's when David discovered Lisa knew everything. Not only knew, but encouraged it. Lisa had her own affair a few years ago, she confessed in the texts. She told Jennifer it was exciting, that she deserved to feel alive again, that David would never find out. David saved those messages too. He reached out to Tom again, told him he'd found proof, asked him to keep it quiet. Tom agreed. But Tom's wife, David's sister, offered to help. She and Tom owned rental properties. They promised to let David know when a place became available. David would need somewhere to go when he was ready to leave. But the rental didn't open up right away. It took almost 6 months. 6 long, agonizing months. During that time, David had to pretend. He had to act like he loved Jennifer, like their marriage was fine, like he didn't know she was still seeing the man who had assaulted him, because she was. David checked her phone periodically. The affair had stopped for about 3 weeks after the bar incident. But then, it started again. The texts, the meetings, the sex. Jennifer even expressed doubt once in a message to the man. "I need to stop this before I lose my family," she wrote. But she didn't stop. David and Jennifer still had sex during those 6 months. Not often. And when they did, it wasn't the same. David couldn't be gentle, couldn't be loving. It was impersonal, cold, a means to an end. He had to pretend he didn't know about the videos she'd made with another man, about the "I love yous" she sent to him, about her smiling at the message where he bragged about attacking her husband. The pain was unbearable at times. But David kept his goal in sight. He needed to gather everything, be prepared, have a plan. So he found out everything he could about the man. His name was Marcus Reynolds, 35 years old, married, 2 children. David knew where Marcus lived, where his wife worked, even where his kids went to school. David also prepared divorce papers. His lawyer had them ready to go. The settlement was fair, splitting assets appropriately. But David wasn't worried about money. He was worried about justice. Finally, after 6 months, the rental property opened up. David signed the lease. He had his exit strategy. He had copies of every text, every photo, every video. He had an envelope prepared for Marcus's wife, another for Lisa's husband, another for the HR department at Jennifer's workplace, since Marcus worked there too. David's plan was simple. He would ghost Jennifer. No confrontation, no yelling, no giving her a chance to manipulate him. He would leave everything on the kitchen counter, the divorce papers, the envelope with printed evidence, and he would walk out while she was gone. Jennifer and Lisa had a shopping trip planned to a city 2 hours away. They'd be gone all day. It was the perfect opportunity. The night before, David lay in bed next to Jennifer. She was scrolling on her phone, probably texting Marcus. David stared at the ceiling. 32 years, 3 children, a lifetime together. And it was ending like this. Behind closed doors, she had destroyed everything they'd built. The next morning, Jennifer kissed David goodbye. "I'll be back tonight," she said cheerfully. "Love you." David forced a smile. "Have fun." The door closed behind her. David waited 10 minutes to make sure she was really gone. Then he moved quickly. He'd already packed his essentials earlier in the week and moved them to the rental property. Now he just needed to leave the final pieces. He placed the divorce papers on the kitchen counter. Next to them, he set the envelope. Inside were printed copies of the text conversations, the photos, stills from the videos, everything. A note on top simply read, "I know everything." David took one last look around the house. The home they'd bought 2 years ago with cash after selling the family house. The home that was supposed to be their empty nester dream. He walked out the door and didn't look back. David drove to Marcus's house first. Marcus's wife answered the door. David handed her an envelope. "You need to see this," he said. "I'm sorry." Then he left. Next, he went to Lisa's house. Her husband answered. David handed him an envelope too. "Your wife has been helping mine cheat. This is the proof." The man's face went pale. Finally, David called the HR department at Jennifer's workplace. He explained the situation and said he'd be emailing evidence of an inappropriate workplace relationship. He sent the email while still on the phone. Then, David called his 3 children. One by one, he told them he was leaving their mother, that she'd been unfaithful, that he loved them, but he couldn't stay. The conversations were painful, but his kids were adults. They understood. By the time Jennifer returned home from her shopping trip that evening, her world had already started to collapse. Marcus's wife had called her, screaming. Lisa's husband had called her, furious. HR had called her, requesting an immediate meeting on Monday morning. And when Jennifer walked into her house, she found the divorce papers and the envelope on the counter. David Mitchell spent 6 months behind closed doors, planning his escape. 6 months of silent suffering. 6 months of gathering evidence and preparing for this moment. And in one day, Jennifer lost everything. Her marriage. Her best friend's marriage. Quite possibly her job. All because of choices she made behind closed doors. David was 58 years old when his life fell apart. But he was also 58 when he decided to rebuild it. On his terms. With his dignity intact. And with the knowledge that sometimes, the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's simply walking away and letting the truth speak for itself. Behind closed doors, secrets don't stay hidden forever. And Jennifer Mitchell learned that lesson the hardest way possible. So, what would you do in David's situation? Would you have confronted your spouse, or would you have walked away like he did? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Behind Closed Doors. We post new true stories every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Hit that bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, Behind Closed Doors.